The alarm on the Cathara research station made a soft chiming sound. It was not loud or scary like human alarms. The Cathara people did not like loud noises. Their ears were too sensitive for that. Dr. Elena Vasquez looked up from her work. Was the only human on the station? The other scientists were Cathara, tall blue beings with large eyes and gentle voices. They studied stars and planets from their station that floated around the gas giant Helio 7. What is that sound? Elena asked in the common language that all space travelers used. Xi-CA. The station commander touched his communication panel. With his long fingers, his face looked worried. We are getting a signal. It is very weak. It comes from far away. Lena walked over to the communication station. She was shorter than the Cathara, but she moved faster. Humans always moved faster than most other species. It made some aliens nervous. Can you make it clearer? She asked. Zithka worked on the controls. Static filled the air. Then a voice came through. It was high and musical, but it sounded terrified. This is New Haven Colony. We are under attack. The Vorthan ships came 3 days ago. They destroyed our defense satellites. They are bombing our cities. Please, anyone who can hear this, we need help. We cannot fight them. We have no weapons. We are not warriors. Please help us, please. The signal broke up into static again. Alina felt her heart beat faster. She had heard of the Vorthon hegemony. They were a mean species that attacked peaceful worlds. They took people as slaves and stole resources. Most of the galaxy was afraid of them. Who are these New Haven people? Lena asked. Zithka looked at his computer. They are Zephyrians, small crystal beings. They live on a world very far from here. They grow food and make beautiful art. They do not have armies or warships. Elena clenched her fists. A Zephyrian sounded helpless. She imagined small, peaceful beings running from big warships. It made her angry. We have to help them, she said. The other Cathara scientists looked at her with surprise. One of them, Dr. Velnine, shook his head sadly. It is too far, he said. In his soft voice, New Haven is in the outer spiral. That is weeks of travel through dangerous space. The Vorthan have many ships. We cannot fight them. We do not have to fight them ourselves, Elena said. We can send their message to others. Someone might help. Zithka touched his communication panel again. The signal is very weak now. Soon, it will be gone forever. Lena thought quickly. Most species in the galaxy were afraid of the Vorthan. The Galactic Council talked a lot, but never did anything to stop bullies. But humans were different. Humans hated bullies. Especially hated anyone who hurt innocent people. Send the message toward Earth space, Elena said. Send it to the Human Defense Network. Dr. Velnine looked shocked. The humans.
But they
are Deathworlders. They come from a dangerous planet. They are violent and unpredictable. Elena smiled, but it was not a happy smile. Yes, they are. That is exactly what we need right now. Zithka hesitated. Like most peaceful species, the Cathara were scared of humans. It heard stories about human wars and human aggression. Humans fought each other for thousands of years before they reached the stars. Even now, human soldiers were known throughout the galaxy as fierce fighters. Are you sure about this? Zithka asked. Humans might make things worse. They might start a bigger war. Lena listened to the Zephyrian signal again. The voice was getting weaker. She could hear explosions in the background. Someone was crying. Look, Lena said firmly. The Zephyrians are dying right now. The Vorthon will enslave anyone who survives. Nobody else is going to help them. The council will hold meetings and write letters while people suffer. But humans? Humans will act. She paused and looked at each of the Cathara scientists.
Oh, yes.
Humans are violent. Yes, we come from a death world. But we use that violence to protect people who cannot protect themselves. When humans hear this message, they will not ask if it is profitable to help. They will not worry about making enemies. They will just ask one question. How fast can we get there? Zithka was quiet for a long moment. He listened to the desperate, Zephyrian voices calling for help across the empty space. Finally, he nodded. I will send the message, he said. But Alina, are you really sure the humans will help strangers? people they have never met? Alina thought about her home world, Earth. She remembered the old stories her grandmother told her. Stories about humans who traveled across oceans to fight evil. Stories about humans who died to save people from different countries, different races, different beliefs. I am sure, she said, humans have one big weakness. We cannot stand to see innocent people suffer. When we hear someone calling for help, something inside us breaks if we do not answer. Zithka sent the message toward human space. It would take days to reach the nearest human outpost. Lena hoped it would not be too late, as she listened to the fading Zephyrian signal. Alina whispered something in her human language. It was an old saying from Earth. The only thing necessary for evil to win is for good people to do nothing. She hoped her people would prove that saying wrong. The signal from New Haven went silent. Somewhere far across the galaxy, small crystal, beings waited for help that might never come. But now their cry for help was racing toward the one species that might actually answer. The Deathworlders were about to hear their call. The message from New Haven reached the human outpost at Titan Station 3 days later. Lieutenant Commander Jake Morrison was drinking coffee when the communication officer called him over. "Sir, you need to hear this," she said. Her name was Chen, and she looked upset. Jake walked over to the communication station. He was tired from a long shift, but something in Chen's voice made him pay attention. "What is it?" "Gosh." Chen played the recording. The weak signal filled the room with desperate voices. Small musical voices calling for help. Voices that sounded like children but spoke with the wisdom of adults. They talked about ships in their sky and bombs falling on their cities. Jake listened to the whole message twice. His coffee got cold in his hands. "How long ago was this sent?" he asked. "The signal is about a week old now, sir. It came through the Cathara research station. One of their scientists, a human named Dr. Vasquez, sent it to us." Jake nodded. He knew Alina Vasquez, good scientist, smart woman. If she thought this was important enough to send to human space, then it was serious. "Send this to Earth Command immediately," Jake said. "Mark it urgent. Then send it to every human ship and station in this sector." Chen looked surprised. "Sir, these Zephyrians are not our allies. We have never even met them. And the Vorthan hegemony is very powerful. Getting involved could mean war." Jake looked at her with hard eyes. "Chen, did you hear those voices? Those are innocent people calling for help. They are being attacked by bullies who want to make them slaves. That is all I need to know." Within hours, the message was spreading through human space like fire. Every ship captain heard it. Every military base got a copy. Every colony leader listened to the desperate Zephyrian voices. On Earth, Admiral Sarah Chen sat in her office aboard the massive dreadnought Retribution. The ship was the pride of the human fleet, built like a flying fortress. Yay. Sarah had fought pirates and raiders for 20 years. She had never lost a battle. Her aide, Captain Williams, brought her the message. "Ma'am, this came from the Outer Rim. It is being called the New Haven distress call." Sarah listened to the recording. Her face got harder with each word. When it finished, she was quiet for a long moment. "How far is New Haven from our space?" she asked. Williams checked his computer. "About 3 weeks' travel, ma'am. It's through the neutral zone in 2 sectors controlled by hostile species. It would be a very dangerous trip." Sarah stood up and walked to the big window that showed the stars. Earth hung below them like a blue and white jewel. This was what humans fought to protect. This beautiful world and all the innocent life on it. "Williams, send a message to Fleet Command. Tell them I am requesting permission to take a rescue fleet to New Haven." Williams looked shocked. "Ma'am, the Zephyrians are not our responsibility, and the Vorthon have hundreds of ships. We could lose everything." Sarah turned around. Her eyes were like steel. "Williams, when I was a little girl, my grandmother told me a story. She said that long ago, when humans only lived on Earth, there was a great evil that tried to destroy entire peoples. Many nations looked away. They said it was not their problem. But some humans said no. They traveled across oceans and continents. To fight that evil, many died, but they saved millions of innocent lives. She walked back to her desk. My grandmother said that day taught humanity something important. Evil grows when good people do nothing. And humans can never let innocent people suffer if we have the power to help them. Williams nodded slowly. Hey, what about the Galactic Council? They will not like us starting a war. Sarah laughed, but it was not a happy sound. The Council? Have known about Vorthan slave raids for 50 years. They write angry letters and hold meetings. Meanwhile, people die. No, Williams. Sometimes you have to stop talking and start fighting. The message to Fleet Command was sent. Within 2 hours, Sarah got her answer. Not only was her mission approved, but volunteers were coming from all over human space. Ships from the colonies, the Outer Rim, even some civilian vessels that wanted to help. At the same time, news of the human response reached the Galactic Council on the station called Harmony Point. The representatives of a dozen species gathered in emergency session. Ambassador Kreltoth of the Hegemari spoke first. His people were traitors who preferred to avoid conflict. The humans are planning military action against the Vorthon hegemony. This could destabilize the entire region. We must stop them. Ambassador Zephys of the Altarian Republic agreed. Humans are Deathworlders. They come from a high-gravity world full of predators and disasters. They solve everything with violence. If we let them attack the Vorthan, who knows where it will end? But Ambassador the Sis of the Peaceful Assembly disagreed. Her people had been victims of Vorthon raids before. The humans are doing what we should have done years ago. Vorthan enslave innocent peoples. They attack those who cannot defend themselves. Perhaps it is time someone stood up to them. Kreltoth shook his head. But humans are so aggressive, so unpredictable. They fight wars that last for decades. They never surrender. Once they start fighting, they do not stop until their enemy is completely destroyed. Maybe that is what the Vorthan need, Thysis said quietly. Someone who will not give up. Someone who will not make deals with slavers. The council argued for hours, but it did not matter. Humans were already moving. Back. On the Retribution, Sarah watched as more ships joined her fleet. Destroyers, cruisers, frigates, even hospital ships and supply vessels. The humans were not just coming to fight. They were coming to rescue and rebuild. Captain Williams brought her the final count. 47 warships, ma'am, plus medical ships, engineers, and enough supplies to rebuild a planet. Sarah nodded. Good. Send a message to all ships. We leave in 6 hours. As the human fleet prepared to depart, Sarah recorded a message of her own. It was sent to every major government in the galaxy. This is Admiral Sarah Chen of the Human Defense Fleet. We have received a distress call from the Zephyrian colony. Of New Haven, they are under attack by the Vorthan hegemony. We are going to help them. Any species that tries to stop us will be considered an enemy. Any species that helps us will be remembered as a friend. That is all. The fleet jumped to hyperspace, heading toward New Haven. Behind them, the galaxy watched and worried. The Deathworlders were going to war. The human fleet dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the New Haven system. Admiral Sarah Chen stood on the bridge of the Retribution and looked at the screens. What she saw made her angry. New Haven was a beautiful planet. It had purple oceans and crystal cities that sparkled in the sunlight. But now smoke rose from those cities. Fires burned where gardens used to grow. In orbit around the planet, 30 Vorthon warships waited like hungry wolves. Ma'am, we are getting signals from the planet's surface, reported Lieutenant Torres. The Zephyrians are still alive down there, but barely. The Vorthan are taking prisoners and loading them onto slave ships. Sarah's hands tightened into fists. She had seen recordings of Zephyrians before. They were small beings made of living crystal, no taller than human children. They grew beautiful singing gardens and made art from pure light. They had never hurt anyone in their entire history. How many Vorthan ships, she asked. 30 warships, ma'am. Plus 10 transport vessels full of prisoners. Captain Williams looked. Worried, ma'am? We only have 47 ships. The Vorthan ships are bigger than ours. This will not be easy. Sarah smiled, but her eyes stayed cold. Williams, the Vorthon, are used to fighting people who cannot fight back. They have never faced humans in real combat. Today, they learn what happens when bullies meet someone who fights back. She opened a channel to all ships in her fleet. Is Admiral Chen to all vessels? Those ships down there are full of slavers and murderers. They came to this peaceful world to steal and kill. They think they are strong because they attack people who cannot defend themselves. Let us show them what real strength looks like. Attack formation. Survivors on the warships. The human fleet moved forward like an angry storm. The Vorthan ships turned to meet them. Confident in their numbers and size, General Dask commanded the Vorthan fleet from his flagship, in the Iron Fist. He was a large reptilian being with scars covering his body. He had conquered 12 worlds. For the hegemony, he looked at the approaching human ships and laughed. Mammals, he said to his officers. Soft pink things from a small world. They think they can fight the mighty Vorthan. We will crush them and take their ships as prizes. The first shots were fired when the fleets were still far apart. Vorthan weapons were powerful but slow. They were designed to destroy buildings and break the will of helpless people. Human weapons were different. They were fast and precise. Designed to kill other warships, the battle began badly for the humans. Vorthan ships were bigger and had stronger shields. 3 human frigates exploded in the first few minutes, but the humans did not retreat. They did something the Vorthan had never seen before. Human ships stopped fighting like ships. They started fighting like wolves. Captain Rodriguez of the destroyer Fury saw her shields failing. Instead of retreating, she aimed her ship directly at a Vorthan cruiser and hit full speed. The Fury crashed into the enemy ship and both vessels exploded, but the explosion damaged to other Vorthan ships nearby. Other human captains saw what Rodriguez had done. They started using the same tactic. When their ships were too damaged to fight, they turned them into weapons. They rammed enemy vessels or set off their reactors next to Vorthan ships. General Vesk watched in horror as his fleet was torn apart by enemies who fought like madmen. These humans did not retreat when they were hurt. They did not surrender. When they were outnumbered, they just kept fighting until they won or died. "What kind of species does this?" he asked his aide. "Deathworlders, sir," the aide replied, his voice shaking. "They come from a planet where everything tries to kill them. They've been fighting their whole evolution. Do not know how to give up." But the real shock came when human Marines landed on New Haven. The Vorthan ground forces had been having an easy time. They herded the small Zephyrians into camps and loaded them onto transport ships. The crystal beings could not fight back. They were too gentle, too peaceful. Then the human dropships came down from the sky like falling meteors, Commander.
Oh.
Lisa Park was the first human to step onto New Haven's soil. She wore powered armor that made her twice as tall as a Zephyrian and stronger than 10 Vorthan soldiers. Behind her came 100 more human Marines, all armed with weapons designed to kill anything that moved. The first group of Vorthan soldiers they met tried to use Zephyrian prisoners as shields. They held the small crystal beings in front of them and demanded the humans surrender. Lisa Park looked at the scared Zephyrians and the ugly Vorthan slavers. She had grown up on a farm on Earth. She had a little sister who was about the same size as these crystal people. "Marines," she said into her radio. "Precision shots only. Save every single Zephyrian. Kill every single slaver." What happened next became a legend that spread through the galaxy. Human Marines moved through the Vorthan forces like death itself. Their armor protected them from enemy fire while their weapons cut down slavers with perfect accuracy. They saved Zephyrian prisoners and killed their captors in the same movement. The Vorthan had expected soft mammals who would be easy to defeat. Instead, they faced armored nightmares that moved faster than anything had a right to move. Humans in powered armor could jump over buildings and punch through walls. They carried wounded Zephyrians to safety with one hand while firing weapons with the other. General Vesk received reports from the planet that sounded impossible. His ground forces were not just losing, they were being destroyed by an enemy that seemed to care more about saving strangers than about their own safety. "Sir," his communications officer said, "the humans are not even trying to capture territory. They are just rescuing the prisoners and killing our soldiers." It is like they came here only to save the Zephyrians. That could not understand it. In his experience, species fought for resources or territory or revenge.
But
These humans seemed to fight only to protect people they had never met. On the planet's surface, Commander Park found a group of young Zephyrians hiding in the ruins of their singing garden. They looked up at her with fear, seeing only a giant and scary armor Park removed, her helmet. The Zephyrians saw a human face with kind eyes and a gentle smile. "Do not be afraid," she said in the common language. "We are here to help. We are going to take you somewhere safe." One of the young Zephyrians, barely bigger than a human child, stepped forward. "Are you the Star Warriors?" it asked in its musical voice. "The ones who come to save people." Park smiled and knelt down to the little being's level. "Yes," she said. "We are the Star Warriors. Nobody is going to hurt you ever again." News of the human victory at New Haven spread through Vorthon, space like poison. Supreme Overlord Kazath the Conqueror sat on his throne aboard the massive command ship Dominator. He was the ruler of the Vorthan hegemony, a being who had conquered 50 worlds and enslaved 1 billion people. Kazath was huge, even for a Vorthan. His scales were black as space and covered with scars from 1,000 battles. Golden rings pierced his flesh, showing his rank and power. He had never lost a war. He had never even lost a major battle. "Explain this to me again," he said to General Dask, who knelt before the throne. Bask had escaped New Haven with only 3 ships out of his original 30. "The humans fight like nothing we have ever seen, my lord," Bask said, his voice shaking. "They do not retreat. They do not surrender. When their ships are dying, they crash them into ours. When their soldiers are outnumbered, they fight harder." Kazath leaned forward. "But they are just mammals. Soft pink things from a small world. How many ships do they have?" "About 50, my lord, but more are coming. Our spies report that human vessels are traveling toward New Haven from all over their territory. They are bringing warships, medical ships, supply vessels, even civilian craft." The Overlord stood up. He was 3 times taller than a human, and his claws could cut through metal. 50 ships dared to challenge the hegemony. "I will take my personal war fleet and crush these insects. 200 ships should be enough to turn their little fleet into space dust." But one of Kazath's advisors, an old Vorthan named Sektar, looked worried. "My lord, perhaps we should be careful. Humans defeated General Dask's fleet completely. They saved all the Zephyrian prisoners and killed most of our ground forces. They fight very differently than other species." Kazath roared with anger. "Are you afraid of mammals, Sektar? Have you grown soft in your old age? I've conquered entire star systems. These humans will learn why the galaxy fears the Vorthan hegemony." While Kazath prepared his war fleet, the humans were busy at New Haven. Admiral Chen had not just rescued the Zephyrians. She had turned their world into a fortress. Commander Park walked through the rebuilt Zephyrian city with her helmet off. The small crystal beings no longer ran away when they saw her. Instead, they approached her with gifts of light art and songs of gratitude. "Commander," said one of the Zephyrian elders, a being whose crystal body glowed with soft blue light, "we want to thank you again, but we are worried. The Vorthan will send more ships. They will come for revenge." Park smiled and pointed to the sky. Human defense platforms floated in orbit around New Haven. Missile batteries and shield generators covered the planet's surface. Human engineers worked alongside Zephyrian builders to create stronger cities. "Let them come," Park said. "We are ready for them." The elder looked confused. "But why do you stay? You saved us already. Why do your people risk more war for strangers?" Park thought about her answer. How could she explain human nature to a species that had never known violence? "On my world," she said slowly, "we have an old saying. It says that evil wins when good people do nothing. You are good people. The Vorthan are evil. As long as evil threatens good, humans will stand and fight." 3 weeks later, Kazath's war fleet arrived at New Haven. The Overlord expected to find a few damaged human ships and maybe some defense satellites. Instead, he found a fortress. The human fleet had grown to over 100 ships. They had brought mining equipment and built asteroid bases. They had created shield networks and missile fields. Worst of all, they had been joined by other species. "Lord," reported his fleet commander, "we are detecting ships from the Altarian Republic, the Free Traders Union, and even some Kithara vessels. It appears the humans have made allies." Kazeth could not believe it. Allies, but everyone is afraid. Of us. No one dares to fight the hegemony. Humans changed that, my lord. When they saved New Haven, other species began to believe that the Vorthon could be defeated. Now they are joining the humans. But Kazeth was too proud to retreat. It brought 200 of his finest ships. He was the supreme overlord, who would not be defeated by mammals and their weak allies. "All ships, attack formation," he commanded. "We will destroy every human vessel and enslave every survivor." Today, the galaxy learns that no one challenges the Vorthon hegemony. The battle began at dawn on New Haven. Kazeth's massive fleet attacked in waves, trying to overwhelm the human defenses. First, it seemed like the Vorthon would win. They had bigger ships and more powerful weapons. But the humans had spent 3 weeks preparing. They had studied Vorthon tactics and found their weaknesses. They had placed their defenses perfectly and coordinated with their new allies. When the first wave of Vorthon ships hit the human lines, they ran into a wall of missile fire from the asteroid bases. When they tried to go around Altarian fast attack, ships hit them from the sides. When they tried to retreat, human heavy cruisers caught them from behind. Kazeth watched his mighty fleet being torn apart piece by piece. These humans fought like they had been planning this battle for years instead of weeks. Every move his ships made, the humans had an answer for. "How are they doing this?" He roared. "We have more ships. We have bigger guns." His tactical officer looked at the battle displays. "My lord, they are not fighting like individual ships. They are fighting like one giant organism. Every ship knows what every other ship is doing. Their coordination is perfect." It was true. Human military doctrine was based on centuries of fighting other humans. They had learned to work together in ways that other species could not imagine. Every captain knew exactly where to be and when. To be there, the battle lasted 6 hours. When it was over, Kazeth's war fleet was destroyed. Only a few ships escaped, and most of those were badly damaged. The Supreme Overlord himself was trapped on his burning flagship as human marines cut. Through his hull, Commander Park was the first human to enter Kazeth's throne room. The mighty Overlord was wounded and alone, his guards dead or fled. He looked up at the human woman with hatred and fear. "You have won this battle, mammal," he snarled. "But the hegemony is vast. There will be others to take my place. Your victory means nothing." Park looked down at the being who had enslaved billions of innocent people. She thought about the Zephyrian children who now played safely in their crystal gardens. "You are wrong," she said quietly. "This victory means everything. It means that bullies like you can be stopped. It means that innocent people do not have to live in fear anymore. And it means that the galaxy now knows something very important." Kazeth glared at her. "What is that?" Park smiled, but her eyes stayed hard as steel. "It means that somewhere out there, humans are listening. And when we hear someone cry for help, we answer." Outside the burning flagship, the human fleet celebrated their victory. But they were already planning for the future. New Haven was safe. But there were other worlds that needed protection. The Vorthon hegemony was broken, but there were other threats in the galaxy. The Deathworlders had work to do. 6 months after the battle, New Haven looked like a completely different world. The Crystal City sparkled brighter than ever before. The singing gardens bloomed with new colors. But now, human defense towers stood guard over every settlement, and human ships patrolled the skies. Commander Lisa Park walked through the main Zephyrian city with her friend Silneth, a young Zephyrian who had become the leader of her people. Silneth was barely taller than a human child, but her crystal body glowed with wisdom and strength. "The children are singing new songs," Silneth said in her musical voice. "They call them the Star Warrior songs. They sing about the day that humans came from the void to save us." Park smiled as she watched Zephyrian children playing with young human soldiers. The crystal beings had stopped being afraid of the tall humans. Now they brought them gifts and asked to hear stories about Earth. "Are you happy we stayed?" Park asked. Silneth's crystal body brightened with joy. "Happy, Commander Park. You gave us back our lives. Our children can play safely. Elders can grow their gardens in peace. How could we not be happy?" They walked past a construction site where human engineers worked with Zephyrian artists to build a new memorial. It would honor both the Zephyrians who died in the attack and the humans who died saving them. "The galaxy has changed since you came," Silneth continued. "The Vorthan slave worlds are free now. The hegemony has fallen apart. Other cruel species are afraid to attack peaceful worlds because they know the humans might come." Park nodded. The destruction of the Vorthon hegemony had sent shockwaves through the galaxy. 12 slave worlds had declared independence. The Galactic Council was finally taking action against other species that attacked the innocent. Everyone knew that the humans were watching and listening. Suddenly, Park's communicator beeped. It was Admiral Chen calling from the orbital station. "Park, get up here immediately. We have received a priority message from the Galactic Council." Park and Silneth took a shuttle to the human base in orbit. Admiral Chen met them in the communication center. She looked serious, but not worried. "The Council is holding an emergency session," Chen explained. "They want to discuss what they call the human problem." On the main screen, the emergency session was already in progress. Representatives from dozens of species sat in the Great Chamber on Harmony Point Station. Ambassador Kreltoth of the Hegemari was speaking. "The humans have become too dangerous," he said in his squeaky voice. "They destroyed an entire interstellar empire in a matter of months. They ignore our laws and regulations. They must be controlled before they decide to conquer us all." Other voices joined in agreement. Ambassador Zith of the Corellian Union spoke next. "The humans call themselves protectors, but who protects the galaxy from them? They are Deathworlders. They solve every problem with violence. What happens when they decide we are the problem?" But not everyone agreed. Ambassador Thises of the Peaceful Assembly stood up. Her people had been saved from pirates by human patrol ships just last month. The humans have done more to protect innocent life in 6 months than this council has done in 50 years, she said firmly. "While we held meetings and wrote reports, they acted. They saved the Zephyrians and freed 12 slave worlds. They deserve our gratitude, not our fear." The argument continued for hours. Some species wanted to ban humans from their space. Others wanted to make them join the council and follow galactic law. A few brave voices called for thanking the humans and asking for their continued protection. Finally, the council president, a wise old being from the Centauri Republic, called for order. "Before we make any decisions," he said, "perhaps we should hear from the humans themselves." "Admiral Chen, you are monitoring this session. Do you have anything to say?" Admiral Chen activated the communication link. Her face appeared on screens. "Throughout the council chamber, honored representatives," she said, politely but firmly, "humans do not seek to rule the galaxy. We do not want your worlds or your resources. We want only one thing." She paused and looked directly at the camera. "We want innocent people to be safe. When someone calls for help, we will answer. When bullies attack the defenseless, we will stop them. When slavers steal children from their families, we will free those children. This is not negotiable. This is who we are," Ambassador Kreltoth interrupted angrily. "But who gave you the right to decide what is just? Who made you the police of the galaxy?" Chen's expression grew cold. "The same thing that gave the Vorthan the right to enslave entire species. The same thing that gave pirates the right to raid peaceful colonies. Same thing that gives any species the right to do anything in this galaxy." She leaned forward. "Power. The difference is how we choose to use it. You can write all the laws you want. You can hold all the meetings you desire. But when children are crying for help in the darkness, humans will come. Not because we have the right, but because we have the power and the will to do what is necessary." The council chamber fell silent. Every representative understood what Chen was really saying. Humans would not be controlled or stopped. They would continue to protect the innocent whether the council approved or not. Ambassador Desus spoke into the silence. Then perhaps the question is not how to control the humans, but how to work with them.
Oh.
How to make sure their protection extends to all who need it. Chen smiled for the first time during the session. Now you are asking the right question. We are not your enemies unless you choose to be ours. We are not your rulers unless you choose to be helpless. But we are your protectors, whether you want us to be or not. She looked around the chamber at all the different species. Attack the innocent. Let me be very clear. Somewhere in this galaxy, humans are listening. We have fast ships and powerful weapons. We have soldiers who never surrender and crews who never retreat. When we hear a cry for help, we will come. And when we arrive, nothing will survive our response except the innocent people we came to save. The transmission ended. The council chamber remained quiet for a long moment. Finally, the president spoke. I believe the human position is clear. The question now is whether we choose to work with them or against them. Back on New Haven Park in Silneth watched the sun set over the Crystal Gardens. Human children played with Zephyrian children. While their parents watched and smiled, it was peaceful and beautiful. What happens now? Silneth asked. Park thought about all the distress signals that reached human space every day. Calls for help from species that were being attacked or enslaved or destroyed. Humans were already on their way to answer many of those calls. Now we keep our promise, Park said simply. We keep listening. We keep protecting. We keep showing the galaxy that good people do not have to face evil alone. Somewhere in the vast darkness of space, a small ship sent out a desperate signal. Pirates had attacked their colony. They needed help. They had heard rumors about the Star Warriors who answered calls for help. On New Haven, Admiral Chen received the message. She smiled and began preparing another rescue fleet, the Deathworlders. We're always listening.